Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm Tanya Granick-Allen. How do you do it all? Busy moms get asked that question all the time. Heck, I even do as a mom of 5 working in politics and now media. And the truth is, I don't do it all, and sometimes it feels like I don't do any of it all that well. But is this self-doubt common for many mothers? The struggle to juggle it all. Should we even be juggling it all? Should we be leaning in or perhaps leaning out? Or do we keep our sanity, or how do we keep our sanity in a system that seems almost like it's set up to see us fail? What is the ideal work-life balance, and is there ever time for yourself? Well, today I'm delighted to welcome a very special guest, Lisa Canning. Lisa is a Canadian mother of 9, that's right, 9 children, 13 and under. She is a gifted interior designer, has appeared on multiple news outlets in Canada and the USA, and even hosted her own show on HGTV. Lisa is joining me today to discuss her latest book, The Possibility Mom: How to Be a Great Mom and Pursue Your Dreams at the Same Time. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's a delight to be here.
So 9 children, good for you. I think that's amazing.
It's an adventure. It is an adventure, not for the faint of heart, but it has been a really fun adventure to pursue amidst my personal goals and dreams at the same time.
Okay, so you wrote this amazing book, and the title just it grabs me. What compelled you to write this book?
I started my career on HGTV, and I was very young when I began, newly married when my television career launched. And I was sort of told in not so many words, and sometimes explicit words, you should really not have babies because it's going to impact your career. Or like, let your television career take off and then think about having a family. And I'll just be honest with you, that was just not compatible with my ideals. Like I knew I wanted to have children. And so I set out to prove both camps wrong, so to speak. I wanted to show everybody in television and in interior design that you could have a successful business and have a baby on your hip. And I wanted to show people who were encouraging me to not work and actually just not really do anything except for raise my kids, that, oh, look, you can strike this great balance. And here's the spoiler alert. When we try to prove things to other people, it doesn't really work out very well. And that was the case for me. And so the impetus behind writing the book was to explore a possibility that it doesn't have to be this either or mentality, that it doesn't have to be you pursue one at the expense of the other, that there can be this integrated approach that is completely different. And that's why I wrote the book.
So I guess, for those of our viewers who haven't yet purchased your book, and maybe they will after seeing the show, so can moms do it all? Can they have it all?
I believe that a mom can have it all, but she cannot do it all herself. And that is the most important distinction in the pursuit of our personal dreams, whether they are things that earn us money, like a career, like a job, or whether those personal goals and dreams are a little bit more of a hobby or an interest that we might have. But regardless, we are whole people. We need to, it's such a cliche statement, but our cups need to be filled in order for us to give. That is just a reality we cannot argue with. And so it's so important that we are strategic in the pursuit of that. And it involves things like delegating, things like deleting, understanding that there are things that you are uniquely called to do that are irreplaceable. Only I can be the spouse to my husband. Only I can be the mom to my children. But there are a myriad of things in my life that don't really require me uniquely. And that's what I hope the book encourages people to consider and explore. What are those possibilities? How can you ensure that you're staying in your zone of genius, your zone of uniqueness, and the things that don't require you are getting done in other ways?
So we have about 45 seconds before commercial. So give us an example of what area we could say outsource.
I do not believe a mom should go grocery shopping unless you find it exciting and relaxing. There are so many, various ways that you can have in an app someone go grocery shopping for you. You are paying them and giving them an income, and you are at home peacefully waiting for your groceries to arrive.
I saw when you pointed this out that, get your groceries delivered. So I'm one of these rare birds who actually really enjoys grocery shopping. So I probably wouldn't pursue that. But, it's good to think of if I'm ever in a crunch. We're going to come back in just a few moments from these commercial breaks with even more tips on how you can stay sane while trying to do it all in some way. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're joined again by Lisa Canning, a very gifted interior designer, and also the author of The Possibility Mom, How to Be a Great Mom and Pursue Your Dreams at the Same Time. Lisa, thanks again for joining us. Before we cut to commercial, you were kind of giving us some practical tips of what moms can outsource. You mentioned grocery shopping. Anything else that you would suggest, maybe we could look into outsourcing?
I like to encourage people to actually view it the other way. So what can you not outsource? You cannot outsource your most important relationships, including yourself. And I think that's so important. No one can take care of yourself but you. And this can be a very challenging thing to, of course, pursue because there's a lot of mindset around taking breaks. There's a lot of mindset around doing things like exercising, even just taking quiet time, going and getting your nails done. But really, it's so much more than getting your nails done. It's just this understanding that you are important, you matter, and that there is simply a reality. Our adrenal glands will fail if we continue to operate without taking care of our bodies.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I mean, adrenal fatigue syndrome is a phrase we hear now in society, and people really need to know that their system will be taxed and that there is a burnout point. Did you ever hit a burnout point? Did you have an aha moment and said, you know what, I can't do this all?
It's a moment I affectionately call in my book, The Possibility Mom, my minivan meltdown. And it was really just this implosion. I had just given birth to my fourth baby. I had 3 kids in diapers. My minivan was a disaster, full of sippy cups and goldfish crackers sprinkled like confetti. I had all of this work like on my passenger seat. My car had become this mobile office. And I felt absolutely trapped. And I just remember sitting in the car. I was about to bring my brand new baby, like I was 5 days out of hospital, into a construction site. And, in different circumstances, that might have been acceptable, meaning like if I felt like I had chosen it, if I felt like, you know what, I really just want to like pop in here and it's fine and fun. I'm not going to stay very long. But the challenge was that I felt trapped. I felt like that this was the only way to maintain a level of success. And that's really what did everything like for me. That was the beginning of the end, so to speak, where I really just called out to God. I like yelled at him in my minivan, like there has got to be another way. And that is sort of where everything began, and where now I coach women to understand that there is another way, and involves a lot of mindset and a lot of strategy. And really, the biggest thing it began with was boundaries. I simply started to put some boundaries in my calendar and say, okay, if I want to be able to show up as a present mom, if I want my husband to remember me as a present wife, then I need to be home when these people are awake. So I started looking at, if I want to be able to pick up my children from school and spend some time with them after school, what time is my last appointment? What time do I have to back that up with traffic, with, all the things? And that was the very first thing I did. I created some very firm boundaries to protect my priorities.
Wow. I mean, what you're saying speaks to me so well. So many of us moms, we feel like we're pulled in so many directions, but boundary setting is a very good and healthy thing. Did you see the fruits of this boundary setting, of these changes right away?
The funniest people that took notice were some of my interior design colleagues. I remember they would like pull me aside at parties and be like, what are you doing that's different? They were like, you seem like happy, and I see all these pictures of you with your children and like your husband, like, and that was the funniest sort of, thing I remember from that period. It was like this hush hush secret. How are you making this work with, at the time I had 6 kids when I was still practicing interior design very regularly. And yeah, that was just the funniest thing that other people took notice of. But really, it just comes down to The same way that you will show up for a client appointment, the same way that you don't show up late to the dentist, it's like, don't show up late or don't show up at all. Like, show up to the people who matter, show up for your health. And I literally teach it in my coaching to make it a calendar appointment. So if you want to protect your health, what does that look like? Perhaps you're exercising 3 days a week at 6 a.m. What does that look like? It means that you got to go to bed maybe by 10 p.m. so that you can wake up for a 5:30 wake up or whatever it is. And so when you have these very concrete, I'm going to show up for this thing in my life, it allows for our calendars to be a tool that can help us live our most ideal lives.
So we're not going to be slaves to our calendars any longer, but hopefully it will give us freedom. What a novel concept. We're going to pick this conversation up in just a few moments. Lisa, you know, we touched sort of briefly upon this in the beginning of the show, but we always seem to be faced with this either-or possibilities as mom. I know I did when I had children, like, oh, you can't do political work if you're going to have kids, or, you know, immediately as soon as I had a child, it was like you're annexed from this sector of society. Well, now you're in this category. A lot of labels and judgment, if you will, prejudgment, really. And that had never been the way. I was always a very big multitasker. But, you know, how do we combat this either-or? Like, is it true? And sometimes I feel like one can never do both things equally, and I know we touched upon that, but how do we get away from that either or, and how can women kind of change their mindset? Well, this is the goal I want. How can I work around that?
It requires a willingness to define success for yourself. So that is the one hand. And how do you do that? It's part gut, you know, instinct. It's part looking at lives of other people that perhaps you admire and kind of taking bits and pieces and exploring, like, wow, they seem to have a great marriage. What does that mean? Oh, wow, she really seems to be relaxed under pressure. How does she do that? Like, literally the same way that I would design a room, you can design your potential life. And so it requires you to burn the boxes, so to speak, that I think are comfortable for women to put themselves in. I'm a working mom, or I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm a homeschooling mom. And what if instead you create your own box, or you burn them all together and you just simply say, this is what success looks like for me. And then it's blinders up. And you're just like, this is, you know, in consultation with your husband and, you know, with trusted people, you have to have that confidence that this is what success is going to look like for me. The flip side of that is being okay to be misunderstood.
Okay.
I think that was a really hard piece, because I didn't want people to think that I was somehow not showing up well for my children. I didn't want people to think that I was selfish, or I was, you know, sort of self-serving, and that I wasn't being a good helpmate to my spouse. Like, I didn't want people to think that of me. So I was very tempted to then fit that mold, fit that box that people would then sort of accept that, oh, okay, look, she's good. She's doing those things because this is how she's behaving. I do think that if we're going to have the courage to define success for ourselves, then we have to also be able to have the perseverance, I guess, or the humility, to be honest, to say there are going to be people who might judge me and might actually misunderstand me, but I'm actually pretty okay with that because they're not living my life. And so it is, I'll be honest with you, it is, I think, why I'm so passionate about mindset work. I now do a lot of mindset coaching, a lot of business coaching and mindset related, obviously, in business, for moms who want to build things like wealth without guilt, who want to mother without guilt. I think the enormous strain that moms put on themselves is a very modern concept. We do not live this way in generations before who were raising 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 kids on a farm. They were not having conversations about work-life balance.
That's correct. Right. I think of the early, say, Ukrainian peasant settlers here. They had a baby on their back and they were working the fields. Like, you just did what needed to be done.
And everybody did it. It was a collective effort. And this is something that I explore so much in my work. I have a feeling it'll be a future book. Just this idea of what does it look like to pursue work and motherhood in an integrated way, in a non-binary way, because the reality is that's the anthropology that we came from. And that is so much of a mindset we can choose.
Right. Yeah, it's true, because there are really hardened camps on both sides. And, you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but a few years ago, I kind of had this sudden foray into the political world. And I was shocked by people that I thought would be supportive who said, you know, you have no business running. You're a mother with young children. And I thought, hello, are you kind of following what's going on here? And then I had folks on the other side, well, you have no business running because, you know, you really ought to just stay home. And that's your foray. You have no business because you have kids. And so it was, from both sides, it's like you couldn't win. So I think this idea of really shutting out the naysayers or just being focused on what you need to do, that you're not living life for others, but really living it for yourself and your goals, that's an important thing.
It requires discernment. It requires this ability to internally process, emotionally process. It requires a tremendous amount of humility.
Okay, I'm going to pause you there just because we have to go to commercial and I want to expand on that in a few moments. Welcome back. We're wrapping up our discussion with the author of The Possibility Mom, Lisa Canning. Lisa, thanks again for being with us. Such amazing information you've been providing us. Just before we cut for commercial, you were discussing why mindset is so important in kind of driving the rest of this process.
It's why I believe so much in coaching. There was a time when my definition of success was so narrow. It looked exactly like this. If you imagine, we have manuals for like our iPhones for how to use our washer and dryer. Like, I had a manual for success. This is what modern motherhood success looked like in the city of Toronto where I was living at the time. Like, it was so narrow. And where coaching can be so helpful, where personal development where it can be so helpful, where spiritual development can be so helpful, is that you're starting to see beyond perhaps a manual you have for your own life. And that is honestly the benefit of coaching. It is a gift that I get to do every single day for women around the world. And I just think, even if it's a book that coaches you, or maybe you hire a coach or you participate in a program, to have the ability to stretch and say, maybe there is something beyond what I hold to be acceptable. Maybe there is a complete other, non-manual manual, like just this totally different way that I can be living my life that can have potential possibility and impact. And at the end of the day, fulfillment for the mom. I just believe so wholeheartedly that we have all been called for mission. And to the people who live in our homes, the children that we've been entrusted with, our husbands, but also a mission for the world. And it's going to look so different for everyone. There are going to be moms like me who make money at their mission, but there are going to be moms whose mission it is to impact their school community, to impact their nucleus of friends, to support other moms in what maybe they're doing. And so I'm such a big believer that we've got to burn the boxes. We've got to approach life in a very different way when it comes to work and motherhood integration, and simply be open to potential and possibility. It's why I called everything The Possibility Mom, because I was looking for another pathway. I was looking for what could be possible.
Wow. And do you think that COVID, I mean, they keep talking about the great reset that COVID has provided, but do you think there could be a great mom reset with COVID, that maybe, being forced to be locked down, at least here in Canada and in Ontario for quite some time, but, working from home, being able to see what our children are learning or what's going on, spending more time with our spouse and not having to face that big commute if you did one of those commutes. Is this a possibility for a mom reset?
I think what it has shown, at least in my perception, is the great potential for a mom to make money at home. I have a group coaching experience called Wealth Without Guilt, where I teach moms how to do this and do this in a way that doesn't sacrifice faith, family, what matters most to them. And so that's been my favorite observation, is just that people have had to get savvy. People have obviously had to get creative and resourceful. And I think the fruits of that we're seeing, and we're going to see for many years to come.
Wonderful. So you do this coaching. We have about a minute left. Actually, before we go to the coaching, is there any culture in the world that you think gets this right? That, you know, that say, hey, you know what, they seem to do a good job with this already. Is this just a North American problem?
I think that now I'm a little biased. I am of Filipino descent. And so I do observe some Asian cultures where multi-generational integration is very the norm. Right now I'm a little biased because I saw it obviously growing up. I had grandparents from both sides in the house. I always had extended family around. And I bring that up because there is so much benefit because of the support it can provide the mother. And it needs to. Now, does family have to always be the people who watch your children? That's a whole other thing that I talk about. No, but I do love how there are many cultures where this multi-generational and extended family kind of lifestyle is very prevalent.
Okay, now if people want to get your book or find out more about your coaching, where can they go?
My favorite place to be online is Instagram at Lisa Canning. And then, of course, you can buy The Possibility Mom anywhere you love to buy books, Amazon, you know, your traditional bookstores, and then my website, lisacanning.ca.
Lisa, thank you so much for your pearls of wisdom, and happy Mother's Day to you.
And to you.
Thank you. And to all you mothers out there, have a wonderful Mother's Day. This is Counterpoint. I'm Tanya Granick Allen.